Powell, you are running for Congress, and you ran for Congress,
yes,
and
sir.
A lot of people are just getting new to politics. Talk to them about somebody like you who is pretty young in terms of politics.
Yeah.
What it's like to run, and for anybody watching, why they should actually run for office, and and not just sit back and let somebody else handle the job.
Well, I mean, when I ran for Congress in 2008, it was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. And I've been as you know, Davey, a community activist and organizer for a long time, 2 decades, since I was a teenager. So I grew up, organizing and working on campaigns, doing voter education, all kinds of stuff. But it's a whole nother ballgame when you run for office. And, I was really inspired by Ras Baraka many years ago when he ran for city council for the first time in Newark, New Jersey.
Now, Ras Baraka is a rapper / poet that ran for office in Newark, as well as an organizer.
That's right. Ras is a poet. He's a school, I need to add, he's an educator. He went and got his
right.
master's. He's a principal. He's the son of Amiri and Amina Baraka, legendary poets. And, Ras made a very critical point. He said, you know what? We've got to have some folks that are working all sides of the street that can actually leverage some resources for our communities. And one of the most critical things Ras did when he was a city councilman, well, actually, I think when he was deputy mayor, because he was deputy mayor for a minute in Newark, that's right. He, helped to negotiate a truce between gang members in the city, but the cachet was that they would help them, get them job training if they agreed to stop shooting and murdering each other. You know what I mean? And that says to me that progressive people need to be in politics because there's access to resources that a lot of us don't have as grassroots organizers. I'm not gonna lie to you, brother. 20 plus years of being a grassroots organizer, you get to a point where you can no longer continue to pull money out of your own pocket. It's very, very difficult. And so that's part of the reason why I decided to run for Congress. It's like, I'm running against someone who's been in here for 25 years. He has 3 or 4 different offices. He has 23, 24 paid staff members. Imagine what we could do if we had access to those kind of resources as progressive, committed to the community people.
Now, he hasn't passed a bill in the 25 years.
He's not passed one single bill in 25 years. He has the second highest seniority out of any congressperson in the state of New York other than Charlie Rangel from Harlem.
Now, let me ask you this. You're in Brooklyn.
Yes, sir.
And so there's a whole different swagger and flavor in Brooklyn. But for the folks that are here in Texas, is there some specific Texas advice or advice to somebody in Texas that you could give?
Well, I think wherever you are, be it in Texas, you could be in Houston or Dallas, you could be in San Antonio, you could be in Brooklyn, where I'm from, New York. I think a couple of key things I say, especially to folks who are early 40s and under, 30-something and under, 20-somethings who want to run for political office, you got to have some roots in that community. You got to be an organizer. You got to be an activist. I think the best thing that probably came out of Barack's campaign was the fact that people kept saying he was a community organizer. You've got to know how to bring people together. You've got to know how to provide basic services and resources to people. I mean, you basically, as a community activist, are doing constituent services. If you're helping a brother find a GED program, that's constituent services. If you're trying to help a sister keep her son out of jail, that's constituent services. If you're trying to find someone a prison reentry program when they're coming out of the pen, that's constituent services. You're trying to find someone affordable housing, that's constituent services. You can't just pop up and say, I'm going to run for city council, I'm going to run for Congress, I'm going to run for mayor, and you haven't done anything in the community whatsoever.
But a lot of activists that I come across say that they don't want to run for office. Either they feel it's too nasty or it will limit them. So if you were talking to activists in Texas that are saying, well, we shouldn't run because look at how nasty it is, why should they run? Why should they do like you? I mean, from organizer to organizer, what would you say to them?
Well, I'll say it like this. I think that, we have a couple of choices here, I think we have to be strategic. We need to have folks who are going to continue to be hardcore grassroots organizers, activists, and we need to have some of those folks actually learn the political game and go into politics. But the thing I need to say that's clear to me, Dave, is when I ran last year, and if I ever run again, I'm going to say the same thing. I'm term limiting myself because I realize that it's very easy to become corrupted as a politician inside this system. So one of the things I said, I'm only going to be there for 5 terms because a congressperson is only there for 2 years. And so 5 terms is 10 years. I'm saying publicly, that's as long as I'm willing to do it, because I think that's part of the problem is that folks run for office, they get comfortable, they get addicted to the power, influence, etc., and then they stop doing what they said they were about. That's number one. Number two, to those folks who say that, man, I'm like, you know what? We've got to have people who actually have the community's interests at heart, leveraging those resources. A city council person, for example, is responsible for 2 basic things in any district, be it in Texas, Oakland, California, or Brooklyn, New York. The money that comes into the community or not, and use of land. And so imagine what that city council person can do if he or she is truly progressive and they say, say, you know what, my community needs a community center. Our kids need a swimming pool in the summertime. We need to make sure that we fix these potholes. We need to make sure these traffic lights work. We need to make sure that we have some sort of GD or job training program, so maybe some of these young brothers and sisters will begin to put down these guns and stop shooting each other and realize that there's a different way to go. You have to provide services, and so the stuff is there. Your taxpayer dollars pay for. You know, I have a lot of friends, man, who are nationalists, who are Pan-Africanists, who are Marxist-Leninists, who are all kinds of things. I'm like, at the end of the day, son, you still pay taxes, man. Your taxes are still paying for that system that you say you don't want to be a part of, and so why not leverage that? Something that Ice Cube said in Bring Your A Game, you know, you can either pimp the system.
That's a movie, Bring the A Game.
Bring the A Game. He said you can either pimp the system or the system's going to pimp you. And what I'm saying is that we need some progressive folks to begin to get in. Just how the right wing in this country for the last 25, 30 years, you know this, Davey, they said strategically, we're not only going to take over the Republican Party, but we're going to control the conversations in this country at every level of government. We're going to control it spiritually, i.e. things like the Christian Coalition, and we're going to control the conversation in the media, the creation of Fox News Channel, and the creation of iconic media figures like Rush Limbaugh. People who are so-called progressive, if we don't do that kind of stuff, we lose, man. The people are going to continue to suffer in our hoods. That's why I think, you know, politics is important.